Hello, and welcome back to the Let Me Add to That podcast. My name is Elizabeth Graswich, Executive Director of Public Affairs and Communications at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. We are the largest regional education agency in the United States. We serve 80 school districts and nearly 2 million children. We are excited to use this platform to take a deep dive into the conversations surrounding our students and schools in LA County. We are here today to talk about ethnic studies. Joining us for this important conversation is Dr. Michelle Herczog, Coordinator 3 of History and Social Sciences at LACO. Michelle, before we begin, tell us a little bit about yourself and your work in this area.
Thank you, Liz. It's really nice to be invited to talk about this important topic. We're very excited about it. Yes, as you said, I'm the Coordinator 3 for History Social Science. I'm in the Division of Curriculum and Instructional Services at the Los Angeles County Office of Education. And my primary role here is to provide resources, support, and professional development to schools. We have many, as you know, across Los Angeles County. We want to help them in achieving the goals of the California History Social Science Framework and our standards for grades K through 12. And that encompasses a lot of subjects. It's history, it's geography, it's economics, and it's civic learning. And we are involved in a number of local, state, and even national initiatives. And now we're very much involved with the implementation and assisting districts with implementation of ethnic studies in their high schools. Important new work that we're doing.
Not everyone knows what the term ethnic studies means. What is ethnic studies, and what can students expect to experience?
Good question, because there's a lot of confusion out there. It's defined primarily, first of all, in the California History Social Science Framework. They contextualize it as an interdisciplinary field of study that encompasses many different subject areas. It can be in history, that's a logical place, but also in literature, economics, sociology, anthropology, and even political science. It emerged to both address content that's considered missing from traditional courseworks that we haven't seen before, but also to encourage that critical engagement of students. As a field, ethnic studies seeks to empower all students to engage socially and politically, and really we want them to think critically about the world around them. It's important for ethnic studies courses to document the experiences that represent the very diverse communities of our students and our society, and we know how diverse LA County is. We want students to be able to construct those counter-narratives and develop a more complex understanding of the human experience of everyone. And through these, students should develop respect for cultural diversity and really see the advantages of inclusion. In March of 2021, the State Board of Education adopted the Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum. So when people hear the word curriculum, they think, well, it's a bunch of lesson plans and things they can just drop in. But it's really not designed that way. It's really designed to provide guidance for districts across California to help them implement ethnic studies. It builds on the framework that I just described, and of course, again, describes ethnic studies as that interdisciplinary, always that emphasis on interdisciplinary study of race, ethnicity, indigeneity, with an emphasis on the experiences of people of color in the United States. So it goes a little deeper in the definition. It speaks also, and this is important, about intersectionality, which really recognizes the very different overlapping identities, where no one is just one identity. So, for example, a transgender Latina or a Jewish African American. We have many different identities, and all of those obviously shape individuals' experiences of racism, bigotry. It also helps students grapple with the various power structures that have existed and still exist, forms of oppression that many groups and individuals have experienced that has all kind of impact, but also it should also deal with those overlooked contributions of individuals and groups in many areas in society. Contributions in government, politics, medicine, art, all of these things. So it's a balance here. We want to study those stories of oppression, but also the contributions of these groups that really makes up the richness of our diverse nation. So your question, sorry, I'm getting back to it. What can students expect to experience? Well, according to the model curriculum, and that's our guide, and we encourage all the districts to follow that, the quote is, ethnic studies provide students with crucial interpersonal communication strategies, really important, cultural competency, and equity-driven skills. So what does that mean? So how do we effectively listen to each other? How do we give people in need a voice? How do we use shared power, empathize, select relevant change strategies, deliberate, all those things? Because we want to give students those tools to operate in this society with respect, with inclusion, with obviously positive outcomes for everyone.
Michelle, why is this curriculum so important for our students?
Good question. Well, traditionally, history has been presented in our schools through a very European-American perspective. That's kind of been the dominant narrative. Ethnic studies provides the opportunity for more inclusive, diverse histories that we talk about and cultures. We want them to be highlighted and studied in a way that are meaningful and can be transformative for kids. Now, for decades, scholars have argued that the histories, perspectives, and contributions of those on the margin, so we're talking about African Americans, Asian American, Pacific Islanders, Chicanx, Latinx, Native Americans, be included. We want them to be included in this mainstream history so that we can better understand the real past, the truth about the past, and be able to and then envision new possibilities. Only then can we really celebrate our nation's wealth of diversity. We have to recognize, we have to understand, so be able to do that. And we all know that California, like many states, are becoming increasingly diverse. Our mission, as we know as educators, is to really equip all our students with the knowledge and skills they need to successfully navigate that diverse society and to be successful. There's research that signifies that ethnic studies have, among other things, there's research on this, that it helps students develop that strong sense of identity. And we know when kids have that, they're going to be more motivated, they're going to have more confidence to succeed. There's research that says that ethnic studies contributes to students' sense of agency and motivation academically. We know that it can reduce stereotype threat. We're seeing way too much of that these days. It aids in the social, emotional wellness of students. That's a big topic everywhere. There's research that says it increases youth civic engagement, one of the areas I have a lot of focus in, and community responsiveness. And there's even some data that says that ethnic studies can lead to an increase in attendance, standardized test scores, which is on everyone's minds in schools and districts, their GPA, and particularly in areas of math and science, which is very interesting. And it also can lead to an increase in graduation and college enrollment rates. So that's good news, right? There's another good reasons why this is important for all our students, whether they represent marginalized groups or not.
Now, ethnic studies is not new. It's been of interest to schools for a long time. However, the news now is that California has adopted it as a graduation requirement. Can you tell us more about what is happening?
Sure. Well, ethnic studies goes way back in California history, a lot at the college and university level, up at Berkeley. We all know those stories. But really, here in California, the legislative process began in 2016. So AB 2016, coincidentally same number, Chapter 327 was signed into law. And that kind of started the ball rolling. It directed the Instructional Quality Commission, which meets in Sacramento, to develop and for the state board to adopt that model curriculum that we're talking about. The final version, as I said, was adopted in March. It was March 18th, 2021. And we have to remind ourselves that it's really not just dropping it into classrooms or teachers' hands, it's guidance. Really important guidance. And even in our work here at LACO and other county offices are using that to guide and support districts as they move forward. So the model curriculum, so think about the timeline, March 18th, 2021. In October 2021, that very same year, Assembly Bill 101, sponsored by Assemblymember Jose Medina, was signed into law by the governor. And that's the law, AB 101, that established ethnic studies as the graduation requirement for all high school students in California. And here's what it does. It requires local educational agencies, and that includes charter schools, to offer an ethnic studies course beginning in the 2025-26 school year. Why? So that there's ample time then for the students that graduate in 2029-30 to be able to meet the requirement. So it's a little bit of time, but time goes fast, as we know, so we need districts to get busy on this if they haven't already. Now, the good news about the law is that the requirement allows them for some flexibility, okay? Districts can comply in a number of different ways. So here's the different ways they can do it. They can develop a course based on that model curriculum, keep going back to that thing, in ethnic studies. They can use an existing ethnic studies course, and I'll tell you a little bit about some of those that already are in practice. It can be an ethnic studies course that's integrated into an existing course, something that meets the A through G requirements of the UC or Cal State. So it could be integrated into English course or an existing history course, just weaving that in to make it a cultural proficient ethnic studies approach. Or districts can start from scratch and develop a locally developed course on their own. It just has to be approved by their governing board or the governing board of the charter, wherever they're at the local level. So there's other good news too. So yes, this is a big lift for a lot of folks, but this is not one of those unfunded mandates. This has got funding that comes with it, which is good. And so funding is available for districts to support that work. County offices of education, charter schools, and state special schools. Any schools that are serving students in grades 9 through 12 are eligible to receive funding. And my understanding is that that funding has already gone out to these LEAs across the state. They are receiving, here it is, $25.57 per pupil, those students that are served in grades 9 through 12. And so, like I said, those funds have been allocated. They don't have to be spent in this current year. They can carry over. And that's going to be a really big help for districts in taking that time to form the committees and go through and develop their plan.
Now, you're out and about in LA County schools quite a bit. How are you seeing districts implement ethnic studies?
Yeah, that's been really fun to see and really interesting because they're taking lots of different approaches. So here's a few examples. So we understand that El Rancho Unified School District, right, close to us in our office here in El Rancho, was the first district in the state to implement ethnic studies. They were doing this now for 8 years. So they have a great model to look at. They're in a very good position to meet the mandate. They've already done it, right? They already have this in place, so they're good. Los Angeles Unified, of course, we all know, they've been on this for some time too. They have established standalone courses, one semester, as electives, available in a number of their high schools across LA Unified, big district, right? So their challenge now is, now that it's a requirement for all students, to how do they scale that up? They're working on that. They have staff on board. How do they expand the coursework, make it more available, train more teachers in doing that across their very large district? Other districts like Santa Monica Malibu Unified, they've integrated ethnic studies into their existing history course. So when kids take that U.S. history course, it's got it woven right in. Boom, done. They've satisfied that. Culver City Unified School District, Norwalk La Mirada District, they have also been integrating it into coursework, and now they're offering other options, like a menu of options for kids to take. So I visited Culver City earlier this week, and they had a 9th grade, one semester ethnic studies course, so that's an option. El Monte Union High School District, this is a smaller district. They're taking a really interesting approach. They're doing it as a thematic. So some of these districts are focusing on individual groups. So let's study Latinx for a while. Let's study African American or Asian Pacific Islander. El Monte's doing it differently. They're doing a thematic approach. So they're using themes. So the first theme and unit is on personal and social identity. What is your personal identity? What is your social identity? And the stories of students from different groups are woven into that topic and theme. It's really interesting. They take a lot of look at local and community history, the diversity of their community. So the conversation, the histories, the stories of oppression and contributions in their local are realized. Another theme is the role of activism to create change. So that's an interesting one too. Other districts like Long Beach Unified, they're offering dual enrollment. So students can go to the local college or university, take the course, and then meet that requirement. So yeah, it's been interesting to see what different districts are doing. And all of those that I've described meet the requirement of the new mandate. So they're in a good position.
What has been the experience for districts that have already implemented ethnic studies?
Yeah, we've been talking to a lot of them, and we're learning a lot and able to share that with the other districts we work with. So most districts we're hearing from are saying, and they're agreeing, that this work is really important. It's extremely important, especially now. But they're also saying that it needs to be approached with a lot of care, okay? I love what one coordinator said. She described it as the work of the head and the heart. So the head, it takes a great deal of academic study. You got to really know the content, the technical work, and you have to have the professional expertise to understand it and also implement instructional strategies that are going to be effective. All right, so that's the head of it. But we also know, equally important, it has to come from the heart. It takes passion to do this work. It takes commitment to do this work. You have to be willing to take the risks, to face the challenges. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be obstacles. We have to be in a position to learn from that, be able to move forward, and for the long haul. This is long work. It's important work. But if you don't have the passion for it and the heart for it, you're probably not the right one to be doing it. So I love how they characterize it, the work of the head and the heart to do this correctly. So let me add to that. The reality, and we have to face, is that some districts are facing some real challenges and even some resistance. We're hearing that across Los Angeles County, districts across the state, and of course across the nation. We all see the news and things that are going on. And when we talk to districts that have been doing this for some time, their best advice to us is take your time. Take your time in developing a program, in adopting a program, and do your best to be inclusive from the beginning. Make sure you're inviting your educational partners to be part of these discussions. You want to include your parents, guardians, community members, school board members. This is a great opportunity for everyone to learn together as a learning community. Those local affinity groups that you have. And of course, you want to be sure that you're also including your teachers, your school administrators, paraprofessionals, and students. It's great to have student voice involved in these conversations so that we're all learning together. They also advise districts and schools to develop some working norms and some protocols. We all know that we're going to agree to disagree. There's going to be disagreements, but can we dialogue about these? Can we still work in a way that's respectful, that's civil? We want to demonstrate that to each other, particularly to our students, so that we can be really productive. And the best advice they give is really stay committed to the long haul. This is hard work. It's going to take some time. It's going to take a lot of patience, but they all tell us, those that are doing it, it's worth it. So be patient, be committed, be careful, be kind.
One of LACO's roles is to support the implementation of large initiatives that come from the state. What is LACO doing to support the implementation of ethnic studies?
Yeah, we're so lucky here at LA County Office of Ed. There's great support and great motivation for us to do this work. In 2021, LACO, we established the Ethnic Studies Work Group, and that included my division director who co-led this, Danielle Mitchell, myself, We had staff from the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion unit, government relations folks were involved, and of course our court school educational programs were represented. The goal of our work group was to provide guidance and resources to districts. We want them to be successful in developing those courses according to the model curriculum. We keep pointing to the model curriculum. And I think we've done quite a bit so far, and that we can be proud of. We drafted a LACO board resolution adopted by our LA County Board of Ed to support ethnic studies as a graduation requirement. That's that language that is serving as a model for other districts who are moving forward with adopting resolutions. In September 2022, we held a 3-day institute, and we had a lot of folks there from all over the county. We were so fortunate. We had Dolores Huerta as our opening keynote, very inspiring. She's a big supporter of this. The 3 days included some initial training in implicit bias, some cultural proficient practices. I think one of the favorite thing was we had presentations from what we call our ethnic studies bright spots. We identified, I think, about 8 or 10 districts that are already doing ethnic studies in the different ways like I described, and we invited them to come. They did a brief presentation. I mean, they could have all just presented for 3 days on their own. We had them do something very brief, and then we set them up in tables and allowed people to move around and have table talks and have those informal one-on-one conversations. So you're not intimidated raising your hand in a crowd of 150, but you could really kind of pick people's brains, and people seemed to be really happy with that portion of the thing. So to add to that, our office also developed an ethnic studies adoption toolkit, which has become a really useful tool for districts across the county and even across the state. It's been shared all over California. No other group, I think, had developed this. So as you guys probably know, county offices of ed have a long history of providing guidance to districts when they select and adopt textbooks, instructional materials, in all the subject areas, math, science. We have all these toolkits. We help them move that forward. In 2018, we had developed the History Social Science Adoption Toolkit, and that was a toolkit that was adopted by CSESA, which is now known as the California County Superintendents. They adopted it, and it's been really useful. Districts have been using it all over the state. Well, we took that toolkit and adapted it for ethnic studies to help districts guide them through a similar process. So, as you know, we're not in a position to recommend or disparage any particular publisher or program, but just to help them with the process. So the process we put in place in the Ethnic Studies Toolkit was to kind of guide districts through six steps. First of all, how do we help them establish a committee? So like I said, make it inclusive, include all these groups, give them background information, let them read, memorize, know that model curriculum from Sacramento, that's important. Develop that district lens. Get an eyeball on what are your district's demographics? What are the different achievements of students? Where do they lie? Do you have English learners? Where are they? All of that. Do a deep dive on that. Look at different course options. We included in the toolkit links to many of the districts that I mentioned and others that we know that have done, that are implementing ethnic studies and allowed us to share their course outlines. So people really like that. It's hard to start from scratch, right? So why do that? That's the one thing. The next step we guide them through is, okay, once you've investigated examples, you know your kids, you know your environment, you've done your deep dive, you've really studied this up, how do I make a decision? So some tips on how do I reach consensus. I don't know if anyone's been on a committee where everybody agreed on the first vote on the same thing. So there's a process for that. And then we added that sixth step, which is really about preparing for implementation, okay? So real emphasis on making sure that teachers are well trained in this before they implement. You just don't throw this at people and expect them to take it up on Monday in the classroom. Looking at communication, how to do a communication to your community on what this is and how to do it. Has your board adopted anything that's been locally developed? So there's tips in there for implementation. So the toolkit was a great collaborative effort. It's available at no cost, and like I said, it's being shared across the state. So it's a piece of work I think we're very proud of here at LACO. To add to that, we're continuing this work where we want to lead another institute next fall, 2023, to kind of make other information available to districts who couldn't join us the first time. This year, we're also leading an ethnic studies symposium series that focuses on 4 primary groups: Latinx studies, African American studies, Native American studies, and Asian American Pacific Islander studies. And what's fun about this, these are one day each, and we're holding them at different museum venues across LA County. And we are lucky in LA County to have these great places to go to, right? The Museum of Latin American Art, the Japanese American National Museum. We're going to the Museum of African American Art and the Autry Museum of the American West. So that's going to be terrific. Okay, I have one more thing to add to that, if that's okay. You want to hear more, Liz? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay. So LACO is also involved in the California Regional Ethnic Studies Collaborative. It's called CRESC. It's being led by San Diego County Office of Education and the Riverside County Office of Education. This is a big project. They were awarded $5 million grant from the state to provide professional development and resources to districts all across California to support ethnic studies and implementation. So LACO, we're very excited about this, will serve as the Valley to Coast Geo Lead to help roll out this work for Fresno, Kern, San Luis Obispo, Ventura, Santa Barbara, and Los Angeles counties in the next year or so. And we're also going to be involved in supporting some of the content development and those civic engagement approaches, which you know is a special interest of mine, right? How do we use this knowledge that students gain to get them civically engaged to address some of the issues they continue to see in their communities?
We have a lot of listeners who are interested in this topic. Where can people go to learn more?
Well, thanks to your team, Liz, and ETN and all our folks in communications, we have a terrific LACO website that features that, and I think you'll see the URL in the posting here. You'll see links to our adoption toolkit, our symposium series. We have a separate recorded webinar that talking very frankly with 4 districts that have been through this process, and they're being very candid, talking about their triumphs, but also those challenges, right? Because no one wants to go into this thinking it's going to run smooth. We got to know where we want to be cautious and what to do. So they offer some really good tips. And we have a list of course outlines that have been adopted by different districts across LA County. We also really recommend, of course, the California Department of Education's website to get information. They can pull down the Ethnic Studies Model Curriculum, learn about funding, and all kinds of resources.
Let me add to that. LACO has a wealth of resources on our website at www.lacoe.edu. I want to thank Dr. Michelle Herczog for joining us today. She is a true expert in history, social science. We are so grateful for all that you do to support our school districts.
Well, thank you, Liz. It's a pleasure to talk to you about it. I'm proud to be part of this work and proud of LACO for jumping in and leading it. We're very excited about this. And I just want to finish with this little quote. Our board, our leadership, and staff are really committed to the belief that's stated so beautifully in the Ethnic Studies curriculum that says, by affirming the identities and contributions of marginalized groups in our society, Ethnic Studies helps students see themselves and each other as part of the narrative of the United States. Importantly, this helps students see themselves as active agents in the interethnic bridge-building process we call American life.
Beautifully stated, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Please follow the Los Angeles County Office of Education on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Los Angeles COE. That's Los Angeles COE. Or you can find us on Facebook and LinkedIn at Los Angeles County Office of Education.